on and pursue a fair transition to a renewable-powered future to support a livable and prosperous future for all. Today, we are gathered here to reflect, learn, and engage. We'll hear from distinguished speakers and thought leaders from various sectors, sharing insights about the growing global movement for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, a bold new proposal aimed at facilitating a fair and financed transition, which is gaining momentum the world over, and why it is time for African nations to get involved. This is a conversation about the future we want to build together, and the hope is that we can all be active participants in this shared vision. So without further ado, let's hear from some of our esteemed speakers that we have today. There will be opportunities at the end to ask questions and also to engage and give feedback. So kindly, let's pay attention so that we can properly engage as we move forward. Our first speaker, who will be giving the keynote address, is none other but Frederick Njehu. So if you could please invite Frederick Njehu to come to the front. Maybe he needs the claps to get him fueled to come here. But Frederick Njehu is a global political lead, fair share of at Greenpeace Africa. He is a policy and advocacy leader and uses political processes to influence policy change in an ever-changing geopolitical world. He provides strategic political leadership on issues of international climate politics, connecting policy, politics to shape public opinion. For the last 15 years, Fred has worked in the civil society spaces, providing thought leadership, strategy development, engagements in multilateral negotiations, campaigning, building and maintaining strategic partnerships with allies to influence policy choices. From climate politics, international tax, trade policies, energy economics, to food and agriculture, human rights and social justice, he has been at the center of providing much needed civil society voice. That was a lot, right? He's a very busy guy who we really, really need. And I'm sure if you pay attention to his keynote speech, you'll realize why he's the one that's giving it. Karibu sana, Fred.
Thank you very much, Omar, for that introduction. Someone wrote it for me. I should have said I'm a Kenyan, I'm an East African. I'm Jambo Nyote. Want to welcome you all and thank you very much, our friends from the treaty. It's a pleasure to be here, to be speaking on a very topical issue that is very important and dear to the African continent, to our country, Kenya, but also to the world. When I was told to come here and interact and speak about this topic, two things came to my mind. One is that we have been pushing for a lot of decisions to be made globally, especially at the Conference of Parties, the famous COP. And an initiative like this one is a very unique opportunity to ensure that the decisions that are decided at COP are implemented. It's a very unique initiative, and I think the last 2-3 COPs we've been talking about the treaty work quite comprehensively. I work for Greenpeace Africa, and globally, 2-3 years ago, we signed on to this treaty because we believe that we are moving into a world that is fossil fuel free. So I thank my colleagues from the treaty for making sure that we are pushing the message across the continent, but also across the world. So I'm going to read a very simple speech based on the discussions for today. Esteemed colleagues, members from the community, the fourth estate. Friends, my name is Njehu Fred. I'm honored to be here to stand before you with a great sense of urgency and possibility. The world that we are living in is facing multiple challenges and crises, and this is an opportunity for us to keep the fire burning. Today we stand in solidarity and with our colleagues and friends supporting the proposal for a Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. And we are here because we believe in a different path, a path that prioritizes the people, the planet, and the future generations over polluters and profiteers. At Greenpeace, our message is clear and also urgent, that Kenya should support the call for a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty and join a bloc of 16 nations participating in the discussions for a fossil fuel treaty. Now is the time for bold climate leadership, and we are glad that Kenya has been one of the many leaders on climate work in the continent. And most importantly, a time to champion Africa's just transition to a clean, renewable energy future and reject fossil fuel expansion. And why now, we ask ourselves. The climate crisis is a present, deadly reality, disrupting lives and livelihoods across the continent and across the globe. From record-breaking floods, like the ones happening currently in Nigeria, to prolonged droughts and extreme heat waves. And these are signs that we are experiencing everywhere. So our planet is in distress. And the future and the time for hesitation is also over. And despite the fact that the African continent has a very small carbon footprint, we are being sold a very dangerous illusion that fossil fuels will deliver prosperity. Friends, let me be clear that fossil fuels will not. They are not also the future of African continent, African development. They are a cause, they are the cause of our vulnerability. And if you look at the energy mix in the country, we have enormous sources of renewable energy. And Kenya is among the largest renewable energy producers in the continent. With the right international mechanisms in place, much more can be achieved to support these efforts and the global transition. It's time for a global plan to supplement the Paris Agreement by tackling the root causes of the crisis and charting the path for a fast, fair, and financed transition. And this is actually one of the outcomes of Conference of Parties, where we are pushing for financing of a just transition. We need our African nations at the table shaping this solution, a fossil fuel treaty that will deliver a much-needed transition to a livable and a prosperous future fueled by renewable energy. So the proposed Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty would be a bold response to the climate crisis, inspired by the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Framework. So the plan for this treaty is one, to accelerate a just transition to clean energy, I've said that, one that ensures that it leaves nobody behind, be it our communities and our workers. It also stops the expansion of any new fossil fuel production and phases out the existing fossil fuel infrastructure. So today is very important because this movement is gaining momentum. As I said, 16 countries are engaged in these discussions. 135 cities and subnational governments have been calling for this treaty, including in the neighboring country, Dar es Salaam, neighboring countries in Lilongwe, Freetown, Lusaka. These are all African countries that have signed, African cities that have signed up to this initiative. But most importantly, countries like Vanuatu, Tuvalu, which are islands in the Pacific, and the Colombia among the other countries that have engaged on the discussions for the treaty. So the tide is turning, and Kenya must not be left behind. Joining the call for a fossil fuel treaty would reaffirm Kenya's position as a climate leader on the African continent. It would also be an opportunity to send a signal that real climate action means leaving fossil fuels on the ground where they belong. Friends, and let us be honest, this is not just about the environment, about the economics. It makes economic sense. Because fossil fuels are risky, they're expensive, they are volatile, they are short-term, and they are not sustainable. The global financial system is also shifting rapidly from dirty energy sources, from banks to all the financial instruments that exist. We've seen a transition to more sustainable solutions around renewable energy, wind, solar, geothermal, among other renewable sources that we have. So investing in fossil fuel infrastructure today is investing in stranded assets tomorrow. If you look at the global north and many countries that have stranded assets, you will see the evidence clearing. So Kenya's development model must be future-proof, rooted in renewables, energy access for our communities, and also creating green and sustainable jobs. A model that also protects our biodiversity, our water resources, and communities on the front line of the climate change. As I wind up, this is a call to the Kenyan government that we have a responsibility and a legacy to pursue. We must join the call for a Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, and we must stop licensing any new oil and gas explorations. We need to invest in a just transition roadmap, that supports communities, workers, empowers our people, and puts on track the future that is renewable. The future is not written yet, but the choices we make today will define our tomorrow. Will Kenya lead the way towards justice or follow the same destructive path that we'll live to regret? That's a big question. Let us choose courage, let us choose justice, let us choose life over extraction. Let us stand with the people, not with the polluters. Let Kenya become among the African countries to join the bloc of nations participating in discussions for a fossil fuel non-proliferation. I thank you.
Let's appreciate him a little bit better, friends. It was a very, very beautiful speech. So I won't bore you by trying to reiterate what he has said. But if anything, you've heard why the severity of the climate crisis and why we need to act now and not tomorrow, and therefore why we need the Fossil Fuel Treaty. You've also heard why Kenya is really going to be important in coming in and joining the treaty, because Kenya is one of the leading voices when it comes to the African issues. Case in point, the Africa Climate Summit, which we initiated as Kenyans, and then also the aspect around the 100% renewable energy push, which Kenya is also has confirmed and committed to. And definitely the importance of the country to join in, but not just as a government, but even us individually. If you're yet to endorse the treaty, there's no better time than today to do that, because you can endorse as an individual, as an organization, and also as a government. On then to our next speaker, who is none other but Moses Ole Kipaliash. I hope I've pronounced the name correctly. He is a Maasai community leader and an environmentalist. Now, as a passionate community leader and environmentalist, Moses is dedicated to creating lasting change at the grassroots level, driven by his aspiration for a healthier planet free from pollution and drought. He has mobilized local efforts to restore the environment and promote sustainable living. One of his key achievements includes leading a successful community initiative to plant over 400 tree seedlings and establish a thriving kitchen garden at Endonyo Sidai School. This initiative not only combats deforestation and climate challenges, but also serves to teach students the value of environmental stewardship. Moses, if you're here, please, karibu sana. Let's appreciate him, friends. It looks really good. I hope he'll tell me where I can get a nice attire like this before I leave. Moses, karibu.
Good morning, everybody. And Asoba. Okay. I would like to share a few words on behalf of my community. I greet you all with respect and gratitude. It's an honor to stand before you today as a member of the Maasai community from Endonyo Sidai in Kajiado County to share a few words on behalf of my community. As Maasai people, like many indigenous communities across the continent and globally, we have lived in harmony with nature for generations. Our lives are deeply connected to the land, the animals, the forest, and the rivers. Our traditions teaches us to protect the land because we do not just depend on nature, but we are part of it. But now things are changing. The rains are no longer coming as they used to. The grasslands are shrinking, our rivers are drying up, and our animals, which are our main source of livelihood, are dying due to lack of pasture and water. It is affecting our way of life and making it harder for us to survive. We know these challenges are not normal. They are being made worse by the climate crisis caused by pollution and the burning of harmful fuels, coal, oil, and gas. This means something has to be done about these fuels. If we want to stop this damage and protect the earth for our children and their children. Recently, we had a chance to engage with members of the Fossil Fuel Treaty initiative who visited our community and took time to explain the proposal for a treaty to us, how it can help address the issues of fossil fuels, address the climate crisis, and chart a path to a better future. We listen and we ask questions. And we reflected on what it means for us as a community. We appreciated the engagement as it showed us that our voices matters and that this is not just a conversation for big cities and governments. It includes people like us, especially indigenous communities, who are on the front line of the climate crisis. We recognize that the goals of the proposed treaty are aligning with our values of protecting the land, living in harmony with nature, and safeguarding nature. Future generations. That is why we, as a section of the Maasai community in Endonyo Sidai in Kajiado County, have chosen to support the global call for Fossil Fuel Treaty. We believe that indigenous voices must be included in the solutions to this global problem that is adversely affecting our communities. As indigenous people, we have always known how to live in balance with nature. We believe our knowledge, experience, and deep connection with the earth can help guide the world towards a better path and a sustainable future. We ask other communities, our leaders in Kenya and across Africa, to stand with us and support this proposal for a fossil fuel treaty aimed on facilitating the shift to renewable energy globally. Let us work together, elders, youth, women, men, indigenous communities, governments, and others to protect our land, our climate, and our future. Thank you for listening me. Asholeng. Ashe. Thank you.
Asante sana, asante sana. Thank you for refusing to be a victim and showing that you're actually a survivor of the climate crisis, and for the amazing work that's already being done within your community towards that. I think just to appreciate him even more, let's give him claps of his own. I think if there's one thing that's very important to the Maasai community is peers, yeah? So that if diplomacy fails, you use other ways to enforce your rights. So we're going to invite some peer claps today, and it goes like this. So we'll do 5 of them. So like this, 2 here this side, and we do 1 here, yes? Oh, those are 6, I've done 2, yeah? All right, are we ready? So here we go, 1, 2, 3, go. Amazing. All right, so next, the person coming next is someone from the faith group, an important part of our society that unfortunately in most of our meetings we just put them towards praying for us to begin meetings and then praying when we close, and then everything in between has nothing to do with them. But we've made sure that's not what we're going to do here. So I'm going to invite Hakim Khalid, who's the Environment and Climate Change Lead at SUPKEM, and he's going to be speaking about the moral imperative for climate action. Hakim is an environmental and climate change ambassador with extensive experience in grassroots and policy level climate advocacy across Kenya. He serves as the Environment and Climate Change Lead at the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslims, SUPKEM. He's also a commissioner at the Interreligious Council of Kenya, IRCK, and chairperson of the Subukia Ward Climate Change Planning Committee. Hakim has worked with numerous environmental organizations nationwide, championing community-led climate solutions, interfaith collaboration, and sustainable development. He is committed to amplifying the voices of vulnerable communities in national and global climate conversation. Karibu sana Hakim, so that you can tell us the moral imperative for climate action. Let's please invite him in nicely. Asante.
Good morning, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. God is good all the time. Okay, thank you. My name is Hakim Khalid, member of Supreme Council of Kenya Muslim, SUPKEM, and also Environment and Climate Change Commissioner at IRCK. So today my remarks I will be giving on behalf of faith community, Kenya. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, distinguished guests, members of press, and fellow stewards of creation, I extend to you greetings of peace and unity from Kenya's interfaith community, a diverse body united by shared sacred responsibility to care for our home, Mother Earth. We gather today at a critical moment in history. The worsening climate crisis demands a moral response from all of us, especially our leaders, rooted in justice, compassion, and responsibility. The interfaith community in Kenya has not remained silent in the face of this crisis. On 20th September 2024, religious leaders from across Kenya, representing diverse faiths, including Islam, Hinduism, Christianity, Baha'i, Hare Krishna, and others, called for urgent international cooperation to tackle the leading cause of the climate crisis, fossil fuels. They championed the call for Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, which advocates for a fair and equitable phase-out of fossil fuels, including oil, gas, and coal. As people of faith, we believe that protecting the environment is a moral imperative. The earth is not a resource to be exploited without consequence. It is a gift. It is a trust, an amana, Arabic for trust. To destroy its life systems through unchecked extraction and pollution is to betray that trust. Our faiths call us not to dominion, but to stewardship, to till and keep the garden, not to ravage and burn it. For us, the climate crisis is not only a scientific or political issue. It is a moral and spiritual crisis. It is a crisis of justice. We are already witnessing the devastating impacts of fossil fuel dependence in our communities. Droughts that parch our fields and leave our children hungry. Floods that wash away our homes, displace families, and destroy livelihoods. Conflicts over shrinking resources. These are not distant threats. They are our lived realities. And yet, the most vulnerable, those who have contributed the least to the crisis, are suffering the most. The proposal for a Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty offers a vision of hope. It is a global call to end the expansion of fossil fuels, phase them out fairly, and invest in clean, renewable energy that protects both the people and the planet. As people of faith, we believe in transformation. We believe in redemption. We believe that a better future is not only possible, it is our sacred responsibility to create it. We call on all leaders, especially our President, His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, to support the call for Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty, as for Kenya to join the bloc of nations participating in the discussions for a fossil fuel treaty. We urge you to take a bold, moral stand for Kenya, for Africa, and for the world. Lead us toward a just transition that prioritizes people over profit and sustainability over short-term gains. Your voice, Mr. President, can place Kenya on the global map as a champion of climate justice and moral leadership. Let us be clear. This is not about going backwards. It is about choosing a forward-looking path, one that embraces innovation, protects creation, uplifts communities, and secures our children's future. To my fellow faith leaders, let us continue to raise our voices, green our institutions, educate our followers, and act in unity. To the youth, we hear you, we support you. Your cry for justice is our call to action. And to the fossil fuel industry, the time to change is now. Redirect your resources toward healing, not harm. In closing, I leave you with these words from Al-Mizan, an Islamic ecological document offering moral and spiritual guidance on environmental stewardship. I quote, "To violate the balance of nature is to violate the order of God," end of quote. So let us then rise to our sacred duty and become restorers of the balance. Thank you.
Shukran, Brother Hakim. Jazakallahu khaira. You know, one of my favorite religious leaders, he likes using a saying where he says, religion is not just about teaching people how to go to heaven, because you still have to live in this world before you go to heaven. So I like that I'm seeing more and more of our faith leaders coming and speaking about issues that are actually putting this climate at the highlight and climax of a crisis. I like the use of the word amana, that it's actually a trust. We have to look at the resources we have, knowing that we have everything for everyone's needs, but we don't have enough for everyone's greed. And also you are looking at the two different examples of making sure that it's more of stewardship and not necessarily dominion over the planet and over the world. Asante sana. With that, allow me to, did we even appreciate him and clap? Or, because it seems like I didn't hear the claps. Maybe they were not loud enough. Let's kindly appreciate him once more. Thank you. So I will now invite a good friend of mine. Her name is Muthoni Kariuki, who is a youth climate champion. Now, for those who don't know Muthoni, she is the president, not of Kenya, but the president of Green Edge Warriors. She's the first Miss Tourism Africa 2022. She's a climate champion, a farmer, an award-winning creative, a model, a beauty queen, crowned the first Miss Tourism Africa in Lagos. Is it Lagos or Lagos? Friends, help. Lagos or Lagos? Or it depends where you are coming from, yeah? From Lagos, Nigeria. Growing up in a rural marginalized community at the front lines of climate change in Kiambere, Mbeere, Embu County, Muthoni founded Green Edge Warriors, which is an environmental initiative that advocates for inclusion and empowerment of the people at the grassroots across all aspects of life. Muthoni uses her God-given talents, platforms, and voice to raise awareness on problems affecting the society and help find sustainable solutions, calling all on board. Together, sustainable partnerships for the people, planet, and future. Muthoni, karibu sana. Let's appreciate him. You don't always get a Miss Tourism Africa speaking to us, yeah? So this is definitely a privilege. Asante sana and welcome.
Thank you so much. As a Gen Z, we like recording almost everything. I had to capture that. So thank you. That sounded so good. I think nijipigie pia mimi makofi. Si mnipigie makofi kidogo. God is good, and all the time. God is good, and all the time, and that is His nature. Wow. Say, ongeza hapo, I am a living testimony. You don't believe it? Say, I am a living testimony. Yes, indeed, you are a living testimony. That's why you are here today, sitting here, because this is a divine purpose that you have been given by God to take care of His creation. So appreciate yourself. Jipigieni makofi pia. Sina ruhusa hiyo ya kusema, lakini naweza sema nyinyi mtaenda binguni. All right. As you've heard, my name is Mothoni Karaoke. You can call me Noni. I'm a very, let me say, all-rounded young person, which is a trait that we find in most of our young people. And that is where I'm going to begin this, with the youth. So I come from Kiambere, in Bere, that is Embu County. It is a marginalized and rural community. And I grew up at the front lines with my community facing the harsh impacts of climate change. I have gone in search of water long distances under the scorching sun. So I have first-hand experience of what the people at the grassroots go through, the impacts of the climate crisis. And Africa is blessed. You find that most of these communities, mostly in the arid and semi-arid areas, are blessed with abundant natural resources. As I said earlier, looking for water under the scorching sun, which at that time looked like a, nitasema nini, curse, like we huku kwetu kuna jua, si ndio? But who knew? I didn't know, but now I know that scorching sun is a blessing in disguise, because that is part of our natural resources. And it is time for us to tap into that abundant resource that we have in Kenya and Africa to transform the lives of the people right from the grassroots. I've said I'm an all-rounded young person. And in that, you find that as a young people, we have a lot of time, we have a lot of energy, and we use that to nurture the God-given skills that we have been blessed with. And among the many that I have, as has been mentioned by our moderator, who was very kind, is being a model and a beauty queen. So that's a talent that I realized God gave me. And at the beginning, it wasn't much. Ni ile tu kama unapenda kudance, unapenda music, si ndio? Sisi majenzi tunapenda kuanguka nayo. Niko karibu kuambia msimame muanguke nayo. But I'll spare you that maybe later. But along the way, I realized that this talent was not just a talent. This was a God-given purpose, because it gave me a voice. Once I wear that title or that crown or that sash, I had the voice, I had the platform to be an agent of change. What I said, even if I said in a shaky voice, had potential to create change for the people and for the youth also. And that is the blessing of the youth. So ask yourself, are you a youth? Are you a youth? Are you a youth? Msiogope? Confidence. Are you a youth? You are. At heart. I love the answers. By the way, hapa sasa inalingana na vile una defend hiyo nini yako. Una defend that answer. Like in pageantry, we say there's no right or wrong answer. It depends with how you defend it, your conviction. Sawa. And so a youth, we've all been there, for those who have already passed that age maybe, because it is a period between childhood and adulthood. So kama wewe unasikia tu uko tu sawa, imagine bado wewe uko youth, si ndio? Yeah, it is what you feel and what, it is a mindset actually. So even though we are bounded, by the age factor, like limit here and there, that does not stop you from going forth and doing what you feel in your heart you're purposed to do. All right, are we together? So I want us to all agree hapa tuko sisi ni mayouth. Sawa sawa? Hata kama unasikia umepita kidogo bado we ni youth. Sawa sawa? So we represent the largest population in Kenya. We are the largest population. And what does that mean? We have an increasingly strong social and environmental awareness to power and transform our societies towards a low carbon and climate resilient future. That is what we mean. Being a youth means in Kenya right now. This is the age group, this is the period that we can be able to really maximize and forge ahead that change that we want to see for our planet. So when I realized this God-given purpose, I was able to champion for change. I realized that I can use that platform to be able to bring a change. And I had to start right at my grassroots, because as Africans, don't lose your identity. And even if you go out there, even if you fly out there, always remember your roots. And so that is why I had to start my roots in the small little village. I decided I'm not gonna wait for change anymore. I decided to be the change. And that is where I started my initiative, the Green Age Warriors, to empower the local people, starting from the grassroots, the youth, the women, and the men also, the whole community, for inclusion, to call for inclusion, to advocate for inclusion, because you realize that we are the most affected people and areas. Yet, when key decisions are being made over the things that are affecting us, we are not represented. So you ask yourself, so how do you know the things that are affecting, the people down there? And there's a quote that says, the people who are closest to the problems are the people who are closest to the solutions. And as the youth, again, we are the most affected generation. And going by that quote of that, we have the potential to bring the solutions. The youth need inclusion in every decision-making tables, rooms. We don't mind, ataka tutasimama. We need that inclusion there. We will bring our chairs also, sawa sawa. But we need to be there, and not just for the optics. We need to be there actively to engage, to contribute, because we have, all these skills, we have the energy, we have the time, but we don't have the right, maybe, mentorship. So that is what we are calling for as the youth, inclusion into these important roundtables, key decision-making and policy-making, all the way to implementation, because that is where we are going, to bring the change. Don't look at us as competition. We are not your competition. No. We are like your backup. As you leave, we are coming in. So we need that mentorship. We need that nurturing so that we are able to fulfill and, realize our full potential. And in that case, you had that I went all the way to Lagos in that pathfinding of talents. And I was able to champion and call for Africa. We say, see Africa first. And I competed, we call this beauty, brains, and purpose, where you are able to use that talent to help the people. And by God's grace, I was able to win the title of the first Miss Tourism Africa. Asante, that was a blessing. But you realize that Africa has the most abundant natural resources. And so I had to come in and use my voice as a protector and a champion for Africa. Africa stands at a critical juncture where sustainable utilization of its abundant natural resources is paramount. Young people possess skills, energies, and abilities that can be harnessed and deployed towards the fight against climate change and promoting environmental sustainability, while ensuring the judicious use of Africa's natural resources. I want to acknowledge maybe and appreciate also a young leader in Kenya. We have the first daughter of Kenya, who is Ms. Charlene Ruto. She's a youth leader in climate, and she is doing her best to ensure that she's advocating and championing for the climate and including the youth in that journey. So as the youth, we have a divine purpose to tap into that potential of Africa and take our continent and Kenya to the next step. Which is that next step? It is what has brought us here today. We are championing for the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty towards 100% renewable energy. And with that, I want to read a letter because we've had a lot of presentations which sums up really everything that we need to know and call for. And our main mission today here is we are calling for Kenya to join the rest of the world and to be a leader towards signing the treaty. And so mine goes directly to our president. This is a letter to our president of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto. Dear Mr. President, my name is Mothoni Kariuki Noni. I stand for the present and the future. I am the founder of Green Age Warriors, an environmental initiative that advocates for inclusion and empowerment of the youth and the people across all aspects of life, from the grassroots. I come from a rural, marginalized community in Bere. My community has been on the front lines experiencing the harsh impacts of climate change. It is said that we do not inherit the planet from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. However, in the midst of the raging climate crisis lies the present and the future of Kenya, the children and the youth. We are disproportionately impacted by the climate crisis. Our lives, futures, and dreams are on the line. This is why we are raising our voices louder than ever, demanding bold and lasting solutions that protect our generation and those to come. Your Excellency, our President, under your leadership, Kenya has demonstrated unparalleled climate leadership on the continent. As the host of the first Africa Climate Summit, and by your chairmanship of the Committee of African Heads of State on Climate Change, your vocal commitment to ending fossil fuel addiction underscores the country's potential to lead the charge towards a sustainable future free from fossil fuel destruction. Professor Wangari Maathai said, the environment and the economy are really both two sides of the same coin. If we cannot sustain the environment, then we cannot sustain ourselves. A people-powered energy transition could foster economic growth, create job opportunities, especially green jobs for us, the youth, while promoting social equity by improving livelihoods and empowering marginalized communities and advancing gender equality. With this, we urge our country, under your leadership, our President, to step up and chart a bold path forward by backing global efforts like the proposed Fossil Fuel Treaty, a justice-based solution which will address the climate crisis. This is a step that will put Kenya as the first African country to join the growing Global South government bloc of climate pioneers who are championing the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty to set the terms, provisions, and rules of the proposal for an equitable fossil fuel phase-out and a global just transition, grounded in economic justice and global equity. From the bottom of our hearts, this is a cry by the children of the soil, a call for an intergenerational intersection and dialogue by the present and the future. And I will end in the words of Kenyan Nobel Peace winner, Professor Wangari Maathai. It's the little things that we do as citizens that will make a difference. So, together, let us create sustainable partnerships and light up Kenya, Africa, and the world with 100% renewable energy for the people, for the planet, and for the future. Asante. God bless Kenya. God bless Africa.
Asante sana Muthoni. I think since she is the only person that we know has entered a competition of beauty and won, so it's befitting that we do a special kind of claps for her as well. And let's do the flower ones, yeah? So we will be plucking the flowers from the tree and then we'll make sure we throw them to her. So in 1, 2, 3, you pluck the flowers, pluck them. Once you have enough, and the too many, you call them a what? A bundle? A banquet? What do you call them? And then we hand over to Muthoni. Don't be selfish, guys, with the flowers, yeah? All right, thank you, Muthoni. I think next, to wrap up, maybe before I invite Prince Papa, who, for us here, who's the first, this is the first time you're engaging with the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty conversation. So this is the first time that you're hearing about it. Do we have any? Don't be shy, because when we know also how deep to go with the conversation. So we at least have 1 or 2 people who this is the first time. Karibuni, you are in the right place, yeah? So I'll invite Prince Papa, who is going to do precisely that. He's going to give remarks on behalf of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty Initiative. He's the Africa campaigner of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. I also have his bio somewhere here. Allow me a second to get it. So for Papa, he's the Africa campaigner, the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty Initiative. He brings over 15 years of dynamic experience in advocacy, program administration, coordination, and management within global nonprofit organizations. His work, spanning across Africa and the world, is dedicated to environmental and social justice. In his remarkable career, Prince co-founded and advised 350 Kenya, Power Shift, Kenya Power Shift, served as sub-Saharan field organizer at 350.org, and held pivotal roles such as Africa Regional Programs Coordinator and Manager at the Laudato Si movement. He also made significant contributions as a board chair of the iconic Decolonize Kenya campaign. Academically, Prince holds a bachelor's degree in commerce, finance, and an MBA with a focus on strategic management. So not just environment issues, even if you need to speak about economics and money, he can advise you on the best investments to do. His strategic acumen has led to the successful shaping and execution of numerous regional and global campaign strategies. I want to confess here that all this is true, it's not a lie, because I've been part of his journey and I can attest and give testimony to the same. So Prince, karibu sana to the floor.
Morning, everyone. In 1884, 1885, some white men, not sure if there were also women, they sat on the table of men in Berlin, Germany. And I think they were mad people. They decided to divide amongst themselves the African continent through a treaty. And right now, the environment is being divided. I want to read for you a list of countries, and you let me know where Africa is, in case we are still going to, the environment is still going to be subdivided, and Africa is not there. The difference is that you are here. By that time, you were not there. Vanuatu, Tuvalu, Tonga, Fiji, Solomon Island, Niue, Antigua and Bermuda, Timor-Leste, Palau, Colombia, Samoa, Nauru, the Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Confederated States, Bahamas, and Pakistan. Another difference is that these are not developed nations. They are nations like ours, where we are sitting today, and the entire continent. Are we going to allow the 1884, 1885 men to decide on our behalves? Morogiwa Kagogo is Gogiwa Thiong'os, forgive me if I pronounce it wrong, Morogiwa Kagogo. Mr. Mayor, is it right? It translates, for those of us who don't speak that language, it translates to the wizard of the crow. The wizard, eh? The wizard is Omar ni wale warogi, eh? So, and in this book, may his soul rest in peace, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, he says, why did Africa let Europe cut away millions of Africa's souls from the continent to the four corners of the wind? How could Europe lord it over a continent 10 times its size? Why does needy Africa continue to let its wealth meet the needs of those outside its borders and then follow behind with hands outstretched for a loan of the very wealth it let go? How did we arrive at this? That the best leader is the one that knows how to beg for a share of what he has already given away at the price of a broken tool. Where is the future of Africa? End of quote. That is Ngugi. And this book he wrote in 2006. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we gather at a critical crossroads, not just for Kenya, but for Africa and the world. The question that Ngugi poses echoes today louder than ever. How long will Africa's wealth continue to serve the needs of others while our people remain impoverished and our environment ravaged? Today, I speak to you not only with urgency, but with hope, for Kenya is poised to lead Africa and the world into a new era. An era that reclaims agency, honors our people, and protects our planet. This is why Kenya should join the global call for a Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. And of course, momentum is building behind the proposal for a Fossil Fuels Treaty, a bold transformative initiative that calls for 3 urgent actions. One is non-proliferation, which is ending expansion of new coal, oil, and gas projects. And to insist on this, and to bring it back to what Ngugi said in 2006, is that coal, oil, and gas that we have from our continent goes to Europe, goes to the developed world, and they buy it at a throwaway price, but when we come back to use it, you pay a premium for it. The gold that comes out of Africa, once it goes back there, it comes back very, very expensive for us. The second is fair phase out, equitably phasing out existing fossil fuel production. So a country like US, we don't compare it with a country like DRC Congo. We want the US to start phasing out their fossil fuel use fast and giving poor and developing countries some time with a timeline to end theirs. And the last pillar is a just transition, financing a just transition to renewable energy for all. Ngugi wa Thiong'o says that the best African leader is that one who will go begging the white man for a loan. And this loan, this is money that they have realized from the exploitation of our own resources. So that's the best African. Is your president a beggar? Now, 16 nation states are already engaged in discussions, over 130 cities, as was mentioned here. The world has used treaties before to curb global threats like nuclear weapons and landmines. What is needed now is to address the greatest threat of our times, the fossil fuels. Of course, the Paris Agreement, for all its merits, does not mention fossil fuels. That is the coal, oil, or gas, just says unabated supply of coal. Meanwhile, fossil fuel companies are planning to produce twice the amount of fossil fuels by 2030 than what's compatible with limiting warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. So even if we have these roundtables, these press conferences, and we've been having them, we'll continue having them, the fossil fuels industry is also not sleeping. They are concentrating on maximizing their profits. And we cannot meet our climate goals if we leave business to be business as usual. Kenya is not just another country in this story. We are a continental climate leader. Of course, as Noni mentions, organized the first Africa Climate Summit. Maybe the second one will be in Ethiopia. Omar might know this. And our president, as has been said, is the chair of the Committee of Africa Heads of State. And our energy matrix is above 90% renewable, with the bold commitment to reach 100% renewable by 2035. So this is not something that we are dreaming of. It's possible. By 2035, it's possible. 100% renewable energy. And if it's possible in Kenya, then it must be, I don't know what's the strongest word above possible, to look at countries like Germany or UK. How possible is it? I don't know if possible is the greatest word to use here. But President Ruto has made it clear through the Kenya's policy, the era of fossil fuels addiction must end. But to lead credibly, we must match our words with action. Can I repeat that? But to lead credibly, we must match our words with action. I know in that part someone would want to say something, but anyway. By joining the bloc of nations supporting the Fossil Fuels Treaty, Kenya can benefit amongst these, cement its status as a climate pioneer. If our actions match our words, we'll be a climate pioneer. 2, we will strengthen our target of 100% renewable energy by 2035. 3, we'll be advancing social justice and sustainable development. A few days ago, it happened that we went to El Doño Sidai, which I was told means the land of the beautiful hills and beautiful people. And the stories, part of which has been presented here, is that when drought comes, I think when drought comes and you remain alive, then the next thing is you start from square zero. As someone who has been born without, in case your mother was survived by that, but you start from square zero. If you are not wearing any clothes, no, that's square zero. If you are having 100 heads of cattle, they are all gone. The chicken, all gone. And advancing social justice means that we will call upon the developed world to finance Africa's transition. And lastly, to inspire the rest of Africa to follow suit. During the scramble and partition of Africa, is it Ethiopia that took that leadership, that mantle? Can we be that Ethiopia of that time? Can Kenya be an Ethiopia of that time? Meaning that we have all the apparatus necessary and we have people who speak what they mean to lead on this. And let us be clear, this is not just an energy transition. It is a people-centered transition. And Kenya has a golden opportunity to shift away from the extractive and harmful fossil economy towards a future that uplifts communities, creates green jobs, empowers women and youth, and revitalize our rural economies. Joining the bloc of nations engaging in discussions for a fossil fuel treaty would be a powerful signal that Kenya is committed to building an inclusive, equitable, and prosperous future, one that meets the Sustainable Development Goals and safeguards our natural heritage for generations to come. Now, for decades, Africa's fossil fuel wealth has served others. DRC, or let's take Nigeria, is a typical example and case study where Shell has been there for decades, and where they have the major investments or installations, that's where we have the poorest people. In a country like DRC, where we have the largest reserves of gold and cobalt and so forth, that's where we have the highest population of poor people in this great continent. Where we have indigenous people with great knowledge, that's where we have. You see what we mean? Now, joining this discussion will ensure that we uplift communities, create green jobs, empower women and youth, and revitalize our resources, and ensure that our resources are exploited for the benefit of us first. Today, over 600 million Africans still lack access to electricity. Imagine that, 600 million people do not have access to electricity. So if Kenya is 50 million, that's like 10 countries, or ama mathematics yangu ni mbaya. 12 countries without electricity. Huh? And if it was Nigeria, that will be around 6, 3. Yeah, three countries without electricity. Now imagine yourself without electricity, and a Gen Z without electricity and internet. Imagine. Huh? At least us old people, we are not used to electricity. Huh? But imagine, and Noni said that they are the largest percentage of the population. Right? While pipelines, oil spills, and gas flares scar our lands and displace our people, wherever they are, you'll be displaced. Even now, 70% of Africa's planned oil and gas projects are at risk becoming stranded assets, locking us into debt and dependence as the world moves away from fossil fuels. We must break free from this exploitative cycle. Now, clean energy, or the treaty in itself, also looks at the exploitative nature of the economy. Africa holds 40% of the world's renewable energy potential, 40%, and 60% of best solar resources. Imagine that. We can no longer be bystanders in a transition we did not cause, but which affects us the most. The Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty offers us a seat at the table to shape the terms, to shape the timelines, and financing of a just energy transition. We must not wait to be told how the transition will happen. We must be co-authors of our own future. Otherwise, it will be the scramble and petition of Africa. We will be reading it on books if we don't participate now. As at now, amongst the 16 block of nations, there is no terms, there is no timelines, there is no treaty. This is still a proposal. And that's why we are having that open door call for all the countries, those who are willing to take that bold leadership, to come on the table to discuss the terms of the treaty, discuss the timelines and the financing, and not wait when this is history on the books, then join the bandwagon. Finally, Kenya can be the first African country to join the bloc of nations supporting the Fossil Fuels Non-Proliferation Treaty. We have that credibility, of course. We have the moral authority. We have the Renewable Energy Foundation. All we need now is the courage to lead. Let us answer Ngoge's question with action. Let us no longer give away our future at the price of a broken tool. Let us build a new legacy, one rooted in justice, one rooted in sustainability, and above all, an African resilience. You can join the movement and call for the government, Kenyan government, and if you across Africa, help us also spread this narrative. And let the sun shine on a fossil-free Kenya and a fossil-free Africa. Let the sun shine in our hearts. Let it shine in our minds. Let the sun shine. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana, Prince. A beautiful, amazing place to end. So that marks the end of our first segment, which was to hear from a good number of us who are attending here today. You've definitely heard from the different speakers, the different stakeholders. They've painted a very good picture of the climate crisis and why Kenya as a country is well placed to lead African nations in joining the nations engaging in discussion of a fossil fuel treaty. As we know, our country has already demonstrated time and again climate leadership, and we have set the tone when it comes to a safe, renewable, powered future and what that can look like. So it's definitely time to take our rightful place at the table to ensure that the needs of our people are well represented as the terms of the proposed treaty are being discussed. We also definitely want to emphasize that the treaty would complement the Paris Agreement, and it's important that African nations are represented, because this is not a treaty that's already there to go. It's a treaty that people are going to negotiate, and therefore if we are not on the table, someone says if you're not on the table, then you're part of the menu. So if we're not part of that negotiation, so we cannot necessarily expect that our best interests are going to be covered in the text of the treaty. And also there's been myriad calls to action where we've been asked to endorse the treaty. So please do, if you haven't. You'll be told how to before we finish today. But now we get to the most important part, because this was supposed to be a press briefing of sorts. And we know that we have a good number of us who are representatives from the media. So I will first invite members of the media, if anyone wants to ask any questions to either generally or to any of the speakers that have already spoken. If you want them to speak a little bit more on something, this will be an opportunity to do that. So I'm just quickly scanning around to see if there are any from our good friends from the media. I'm seeing one, so let me keep seeing those hands so that I can keep bringing the mic. Can I ask, maybe Papa, you can help getting the mic to the speakers. Asante. I would ask that you introduce yourself and the media you represent, so that we can also follow up nicely later. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Chacha. I am a journalist. I work with the Standard Media Group. I work for the Standard newspaper, a group of newspapers, and Standard Online. I have several questions. It's my first time interacting with the Fossil Fuel Treaty. And there are several treaties that I've covered. Oh. I've been told to stand.
I think he wants more for you to look in the direction of the camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, by your position, don't worry, just keep going.
Okay.
You'll figure it out.
Correct. I have several questions. It's my first time interacting with the treaty, and I've covered several treaties, including the Paris Treaty. I've covered the plastic treaty that was supposed to be done and dusted with in December, but then that never quite materialized. The question I have for you, question number one is, why would we need a fossil fuel treaty? I suspect the issues that you want covered, or the issues that you want to advocate for through the treaty, are well covered in the Paris Treaty, are well covered by the Plastic Treaty, are well covered by other treaties and that are being pushed. So why would it be important to have another treaty when this could just be one of the chapters in the treaties that are already being developed, or even maybe part of the negotiations going through that have been undertaken through COP? That's question number one. Two, does the United Nations know about this treaty? And Kenya hosts UNEP. Is UNEP, what extent is UNEP engaged in the fossil treaty? And perhaps my last question, Prince Papa, I think I'm meeting Prince Papa for the first time. The name and the person, I was trying to square them out, but pleasure to meet you, sir. The question I have for Papa is this. You in your address, you talked about Kenya joining and being the leader in Africa. So I will take this to mean that there's no African nation that has joined the treaty, at least officially. And like you said, Kenya is already doing a lot, led by the president himself, on matters climate. So why would Kenya need to join the treaty? Why would it be important for Kenya to join the treaty? And if Kenya has not joined, what are the steps for Kenya to join? What happens? Who signs what? Is it the president that signs something? Then Kenya joins officially? Is it the cabinet secretary? What is the process of a country joining the treaty? And why will that be important? And then lastly, I think I'm interested to find out, because I'm a journalist and I don't like misrepresenting facts. Is this your real name, Prince Papa? Is it your actual name? Tafadhali. No pun intended.
Thank you, Chacha. Actually, it's not like the last two questions were for Papa. All of the questions you've asked are going to be for Papa. But we'll check a few more, maybe two more, and then I'll ask people to come in. But before the next speaker comes, you can hand over the mic. But before he comes, can I ask our wonderful speakers who spoke maybe to come and take the space? It will be easier to moderate from here, so that when I ask you to respond to whatever has been asked, you can easily. So these beautiful, amazing chairs that are here in front, please come and take the step. Yeah, all of us that presented. Yes, including you, Mr. Fred, Doni, Asante. Yes, my friend, proceed.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I hope you are still in the morning. My name is Clifford Akumu. I am a sub-editor on issues of environment and health at the People Daily newspaper. 2 questions. Just speaking from what my colleague has talked about. What would this mean for Kenya in terms of fighting issues of climate change if we join the treaty? That's 1. 2, we've been talking of financing the just transition. How would Kenya's case look like?
May I ask you to repeat the second question, please?
Yes, I'm asking about the issues of financing the just transition. What kind of contribution are we looking at from Kenya's position in case we are part of the treaty?
Asante sana. Do we have a third hand? Yes, at the right corner, the very back.
Okay, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning again. My name is Victor Kwabe. I'm an environmental journalist and I'm the founder of Climate Lens News. It's an online digital news agency. My first question will be, since COP28 when this non-proliferation treaty came up, what has been the reason for the delays in countries really signing up to it? Because when we look at the stats, we are able to recognize that it's majorly cities that have been willing to join up. So maybe a clarity on that will be best. Then looking at the COP29, it was mostly renowned as the finance COP. So in regards to phasing out of the fossil fuels, what were some of the major outcomes in financing this clean energy transition? Because as we all know, for developed countries, we need support to be able to achieve this. So what are the outcomes that then support this phasing out, and what can we look forward to? Thank you.
Asante sana, Kwabe. All right, so let's quickly respond to those. If there are going to be others, we'll take a second round. If not, we'll transition to the next bit. So, Papa, maybe we begin with you, because there are several questions that have been asked. I'm sure you've noted them down, so I don't necessarily need to repeat them. So we'll begin with you, and you can at least address all the questions around the Fossil Fuel Treaty. And if any, I'll be checking if any haven't been answered, I'll come back to you.
Thank you. I'll start with the last one from Kwabe. Why is the delay? So why is the delay is that treaties take time to build. And I want to pick it from a point that answers Chacha's question, as that now it's a name called Fossil Fuels Non-Proliferation Treaty. The terms, the timelines, and the schedules are not yet there. Right now, we are doing something called mobilization. Then the countries will start now to discuss the terms and the timelines and what this treaty entails. However, what we have now are the 3 pillars that are going to govern the terms and timelines and what that treaty will look like. As that now, if a country comes on board, it's just joining that block in readiness for the discussions on what are the terms of this treaty. And just to reiterate the 3 pillars of the treaty, one is non-proliferation, ending expansion of coal, oil, and gas. New fossil fuel investments, ending that, the non-proliferation in it. The second pillar is on fair phase out, where we are asking rich nations to phase out their investments fast and fastest, while allowing some timelines which will come out from the terms that these nations will be discussing on the timelines on when the poorest country should stop using their investment in the fossil fuels industry. And the last one is a financed just transition. So just to be clear, as at now, the treaty is there as a name, no terms, nothing at all, but guided by these three pillars. So that's on a general one. And why would Kenya need a fossil fuels treaty? Of course, to fight climate change, to combat it, we need that global cooperation. We need a global cooperation. No single country can do it alone. And a treaty is what will bring in that global cooperation. And it looks at both the demand and supply side. And of course, Chacha mentioned that we have a Paris Agreement and so forth. The Paris Agreement, and I think I might be wrong, has 14,000 words in it. And never does it mention the fossil fuels. It just said, we want to check the unabated supply of coal, unabated. But if you look at what that unabated means, the schedules are still going on as usual. There is nothing that really binds countries to stop or reduce on this. So the treaty came as a result of after identifying the gaps that were left by the Paris Agreement. And it's coming in to complement the Paris and make it even great. And of course, the UN General Assembly has mentioned the treaty itself. Amongst the global UN bodies that you ask, the UN General Assembly, the World Health Organization has endorsed this treaty, among others. And as of now, from next year onwards, we are looking at if we have a sizable number of organizations that can sit down and discuss these terms. From the nuclear or the landmine bans treaty, which had maybe one had 8 and the other one had 14. As of now, we have 16 African countries, which is a sizable number of countries that can start to negotiate on a treaty based on the models that we've studied. And two, so next year we are looking at, do we go the UN way or the Paris way, or do we have a standalone discussions on this treaty? Of course, there are merits and demerits of the UN way, that it's not a majority, but it's a consensus. Look at the Paris, how it was held, that if one country says no, it's not going. But for a block of nations, it goes that we've identified the nations that are willing to start discussion. It's not going to be based on voting and so forth, but on the lead experts and what each country is coming to negotiate. Be it, I remember I mentioned Pakistan, so it's amongst the block of nations. Colombia is amongst the block of nations. Some of them heavily rely on the use of fossil fuels. And on the question of Kenya being a leader in Africa, we have great policies. Kenya has great policies in terms of environment and climate and things like that. And also the president being the chair of the Africa heads of state, What's that committee about? If Kenya comes in, what other initiatives can Kenya bring in to support other initiatives that are going on? But that is at the African level. And if you talk at the African level, and we talk about climate change, it's a global stage. And we need some mobilizers or states within an African continent that have policies that are in line with the Fossil Fuels Treaty. And Kenya will be benefiting in this. One, with our 90% renewable energy, this will be, Kenya will inspire others, the rest as well, to join this cohort. And Kenya will be making us proud in terms of not some other people discussing the climate issues and policy, but us being part of defining the terms and conditions and the timelines of this treaty as well. If we don't have Kenya or any other African state, we will join because a treaty becomes binding. The nuclear treaty was started by not more than 10 countries. But right now, it's binding every country, whether you are there or not. But if you are there at the beginning of the discussions, then you have an upper hand in understanding this well and shaping the way the policy is going to take place. And the next steps, or if Kenya were to join the next steps, as at now, we are waiting to start the real negotiations of the treaty. The treaty is not there, but just saying, with me, I would like to come on the table and join a block of these countries to start those negotiations early next year or mid next year. But let's just say from the year 2026 onwards. Not to take so much from Akumu. Akumu, I think I've answered part of your question on what are the benefits to a country there. And so I think I'll pass it, and Kwabe also mentioned some, so maybe.
Yeah, maybe you, yeah, so maybe for the remaining colleagues, maybe you could respond to that question of because there was a question about what it means for Kenya to join the treaty. So you're all representing a different part of the population. So maybe you could reflect on what it means for the people you represent, either the indigenous communities, the faith leaders and the faith caucus, civil society, as well as also the marginalized and vulnerable communities, what it actually means for you if Kenya actually endorsed this treaty. So all of you could take a turn around responding to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Thank you all for the questions. I think as I reflect on what it means for Kenya, I think it's been mentioned before. There was a question also around what we should look up to when we, and I say we as a country, become part of the treaty. COP28 was mentioned, COP29, that was an African COP. There was a decision to phase out fossil fuels. And subsequently, there were also two decisions. One was doubling energy efficiency and one on tripling renewables. And then last year we discussed, how do you finance that? So how do you mobilize resources to invest in renewable energy? And for Kenya, being among the leading countries in renewables, it means putting more resources to ensure that more people have access to electricity and have access to clean energy, including clean cooking and all those things. So at COP and other initiatives, we are discussing how do we then mobilize resources? Where do you get this money from? Since it's an expensive affair, you have to look at your innovative sources of funding, have to look at where do you get the money, how do you encourage countries, give you grants so that you take care of these energy access needs. Because of course we talk about debt, which is a big problem, not just for Kenya, but for many African countries. How do we ensure that we don't get more debt to invest in energy access, but in its place then get grant-based financing, especially for communities to access energy. So that's what it means according to Kenya.
Asante sana.
Okay, as a faith community, we are in support of this treaty because we represent the voiceless, we represent the marginalized, and we know this group has disproportionately been impacted by the negative effects of climate change. So we believe that supporting this treaty will help our people actually, because the fossil fuels affects each and every one of us, and it affects all the spheres of life, be it health, because as we know, the statistics have it that 1 in every 5 people in the world die because of complications related to fossil fuels. So we believe this treaty will come to solve some of these challenges some of these climate challenges we are facing as a country, because we know that the people who bear the brunt of these negative impacts of climate change are the poor, what we call indigenous communities, and people who have low income. So we are in support of this treaty because it speaks to the core problem of climate change, which is emissions, which are emissions which come from fossil fuels. So we believe by phasing out this fossil fuel will eradicate the problem you are facing right now. Also, we are in support of this treaty because it speaks of a just transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy in a manner that the workers and the community will not be affected. Thank you.
Asante sana. Can you pass it to my brother on the far end? You have the floor, my brother.
In our community, in fact, last week we had the fossil fuel team in Ndonyo Sidai area, and the community were very happy to be enlightened with such this fossil fuel treaty, and they proposed they will endorse the treaty, because this one will be it will bring the life will be more easier for them, because the rains, if the treaty is supported, then the rains will be normal, and the livestock, which is the main source of livelihood there, will increase number, because they will not die again due to the climate crisis. And also their health will improve, because of there will be no more pollution, and the livelihood generally of the community will improve. The children will be going to school, because now they have the cows to sell for the fees of the school. For the school, the needs will be guaranteed, because they have money. So this treaty will really improve the lives of the Maasai people in Ndonyo Sidai area. Thank you.
Asante sana, Moses. So it's a matter of survival. You need it for your way of life to continue with your community. Mudhoni, please.
Thank you so much. What this treaty will mean for the youth of Kenya, that is an affirmative action, first of all, because it is going to bring inclusion of the youth, because as we said, we are the greatest population. And so being included, in this policy making, implementation up to the implementation down in the grassroots and in our communities, that means that's an affirmative action for the youth because what we call for mostly is the inclusion, because we are the biggest stakeholders in all this. And that comes along with empowerment, all-rounded empowerment. One of the biggest challenge we are facing as the youth of Kenya is unemployment. And when we are phasing out the non-renewable energy and going to 100% renewable, we are creating a potentially great job opportunities, green job opportunities. This is going to benefit the young people. We are now not running towards, the white collar jobs and all. We are running and getting empowered towards what we can do with our energy, what we can do with our own hands, the technical skills that we have, the creativity that we have. We are a very creative generation. And so if we can be able to maximize on that, and the signing of this treaty will ensure also that we are catered for as the youth in our creativity, as we find sustainable solutions, because that is how we do this, So when we sign on this treaty as Kenya, we are going to empower the young people, especially to tackle the problem of job creation and employment, because the youth are going to get included in finding sustainable solutions in the green jobs. As we said, we are the most affected generation, but we are going to be the generation that will make a difference. So there are very many benefits that as the young people we can, we are going to benefit from the signing on of this treaty. But because our mission is to, find solutions for our generation, and the greatest one, which is what I've mentioned, the unemployment for the young people, this is really going to create a positive impact in that area. Thank you.
Asante sana Muthoni. Papa, maybe you will finalize with answering the question of his Papa real name, because there was also a question that was raised, and then we can close there.
I am called Prince Papa, don't worry. That's my real name. Now, I intentionally left the plastic treaty out. I thought Fred would tackle it because I know Greenpeace has been great there. However, to mention a few, Fred, you can also chip in. 99%, is it 99.9%? Let's just say, to be safe, 99% of plastic comes from the fossil fuels, And if I look at the main issues between the treaty, and just to put this on record, is that the treaty is the fossil fuels treaty is complementing the plastics treaty, and we collaborate in various issues. Now, the main issue here for the fossil fuels treaty, we are looking at the production and climate change. And if we compare that with the treaty, they look at pollution and impact on the environment and human health. And if you look at the scope of the fossil fuels treaty, we measure the reduction of fossil fuels production, non-proliferation, stop it completely. And the scope of the plastic treaty, they are looking at the entire life cycle of plastics, from disposal, production, disposal, including the circular economy. And the goal of the treaty here will focus on the production and transition to clean energy, while the goal towards the general goal of the plastic treaty, reduce the plastic pollution, promote sustainable materials, and address the circular economy of the entire thing. And lastly, just look at the core actions. We have the 3 pillars. One focuses on extraction, also reducing subsidies for the fossil fuel and so forth. And the treaty, core actions of the plastics treaty, is the chemicals in the plastics, promoting safer materials, and addressing plastic waste management. So you see they are kind of complementing on the main goal, but core scopes and the scope as well as the core actions are really different. However, if I'm not saying we are not competing, by the way, I'm saying we are not competing, but we are complementing each other. And remember, 99% of plastic come from the fossil fuels. Now, the plastic treaty does not stop the use of fossil fuels, just focusing on a byproduct of the fossil fuels. But now on climate change, then we have to look at the the processes itself involved in the extraction, involved in the production, involved in replenishing, or involved in terms of bringing in the renewable energy into it. So they speak totally different, but on a major scale, we look that they will be reinforcing what is left with the other.
Asante sana, Papa. You want to quickly comment on the plastics treaty as well?
Yeah, just to add on to that, comprehensive feedback from Papa, that, you know, the plastics treaty negotiations are also still going on. So it's very specific to that process. It's negotiated at the ministerial level. And for the treaty, for the fossil fuel, will also require quite a lot of political will, where, you know, heads of states and have support the treaty, and then the technical negotiators have to come to the policy level and discuss what it means for their countries and what benefits does the treaty bring to these countries. So it's normally a long process, as it was mentioned. It requires different moving pieces, like an engine of a car has different components. So this will also require even our own pressure as civil society, communities, youth, and everybody else to be on.
There, friends, there you have it. I think the bottom line is all of these are important. The plastic treaty, the fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, they complement each other. So it doesn't mean one will deliver everything we need. It's all of them together that will deliver. So let's join, support all of these amazing initiatives that they are here. That marks our first half, but more of like the 3/4 of the session. So please allow us to just quickly transition to the second part, which is a panel. So let's appreciate them for doing an amazing job and representing the issues. And definitely there will be opportunities for the media. If you want to do interviews after, that's something that we can do. We want to wrap up a little bit quite fast because we know, you know, like when you have people in the media, you have to do things quick because they might be needed somewhere else. And then all of a sudden you don't have them. So Ashley will be facilitating the next session, and she firstly is there, the amazing lady there. I think if you join Miss Tourism again, you'll be the 2025 champion, yeah? So please, it doesn't mean you should, but at least feedback. But she will be doing the second session. But I'm also seeing the energy levels have gone a little bit down. So it might be because my voice is quite boring of sorts. You know, like there's a religious leader that I know, you know, when you're in church and he's preaching and people are sleeping, he tells people, you know, like his preaching is so peaceful that people are sleeping because of how peaceful it is. So that might be the same thing for me. But let's quickly stand for like 1 minute. We do a very quick energizer as Ashley comes to set up for the next session. Make sure you have some space. I promise you we'll be done in 1 minute. So on this one, it's more about you paying attention, and it's a very easy one. If you already know it, apologies for making you do something that you already know. But in pushing for better life, in us providing for the people that are important for us, there are 3 things that we all need to make sure that we become prosperous. First is food for the mind. Yes? Make sure you are reading enough, you're getting enough information. And for that, we will summarize it in one word. We'll call it pato. You touch your head and say pato. So whenever I say pato, it means the head. Yes? And then there is the food for the body, you know, the cuckoo, and the many things that we need to nourish and have the energy to keep going. And that one, we say pato. No, sorry. This is pa. I told you pato, but this is pa. Apologies for that. Wherever you see a pa is the head, the stomach is pato. Pato, yes? So when I say pa is, and pato, amazing. You guys are wonderful students. And then there is the food of making sure that you're exercising, you're in good health. Yeah? So we will use the legs as the synonym for that. And this one becomes pato. Pato. So pa, pato. Now it's very simple. So you do what I say, not what I do, right? So I will say something and I will do everything in my power to make sure that you do the opposite. Now what you have to do is to make sure that you do the right thing. Make sense? So when I say pato, I'm seeing many people that are going wrong already. This is pa.
Oh, yeah.
Pa. This is pato. So if I say pato, and I'm holding my head, you're supposed to be holding your legs, yeah? Clear? We can go? All right. Pa, pato. Pato. Pa, pato. Pato. Pato, pa, pato. Pa, pato. Amazing. I think they're all awake now, Ashley, so you can have them.
Thanks so much. Great. Hi, everyone. It's always great to talk about the treaty, and especially as young people, it is a sign of hope, and we hope that we can be able to achieve the great aspirations that we have and get more support and rally for more endorsements for this treaty, especially as well with our Kenyan government. And so as we dive into this second session, my name is Ashley Kitisia. I work with Laudato Si movement and also a young advocate for a fossil fuel future. And with me, I would like to introduce the panel that will be taking us through this session. The first being Father John Wabotsa, who is a Komboni missionary. He's also a human rights defender, and he's currently with the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops. Welcome, Father John. He will be joined by Sister Mary Wangare, who is the Executive Director of the Justice, Peace and Integrity of Creation, Franciscans Africa, and a member of the Congregation of the Little Sisters of St. Joseph. Welcome, Sister. Lastly, I'd like to invite Victor Onjolo, who is the treaty champion, climate activist, and a researcher. So starting with Sister Mary, would you give us a brief introduction about yourself and what you do?
She has already said my name, but about myself, actually, I'm a Catholic nun. That is my hashtag. I'm working for the Franciscans, which he has said. It's about taking care of our common home through peace building initiative and other activities. And I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. And do you mind just passing it to Father as well for a brief introduction?
Thank you. My name is Father John Webotsa. I am a Komboni missionary. I'm a human rights activist, and I do various things. I also work with the seafarers. I work in the ships and the vessels. And also currently related to what we are doing now, I'm involved in an organization called Sifa Milele Africa. That means this is an organization that is promoting initiatives that can improve the earth. You know? One of the things that we are doing right now is we are trying to solarize all the Catholic institutions in Kenya. And we began this initiative last year. And God willing, after some time, we shall have all our parishes, all our dioceses running on solar. Thank you.
Wonderful. That's very inspiring. Thank you, Father. And Onjolo, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. My name is Victor Onjolo, a recent graduate master's in conservation in Wuhan, China. Also a communicator that is an influencer in terms of matters concerning sustainability. For the Gen Zs, you can find me at Onjolo Kenya across all social platforms. And yeah, thank you so much.
Great. I think I follow you on Instagram. Yeah, it's very interactive. Thank you so much. And so we can begin with Sister Mary. Sister Mary, you know, Kenya has been really one of the champions for the fossil fuel future. And so, in your view, why do you support the treaty, and why do you think the Kenyan government should also support this Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty?
First and foremost, Ashley and the crowd here, we are celebrating 10 years since the encyclical of Laudato Si was released by our late Pope Francis. And he brought it as a groundbreaking on care for our common home. I speak today with deep conviction and moral clarity that we must take bold and faithful action to protect our planet and our people from the harms of fossil fuels. So in this time of Laudato Si week, as 10 years anniversary, I would clearly say that the government of Kenya should take lead into embracing the treaty. The reasons are we are already experiencing many disasters. We have had my brother here speak about it in Kajiado and other places where I'm also working in Isinya. I went there as a Franciscan, just moved by the cry of those people who lost their cows, their kettles, and that was like everything. So Kenya is already experiencing the harsh realities of climate change, and as a church leaders, we have seen how rising temperatures and erratic rainfall are worsening poverty, food insecurity, and conflict, especially in the arid and semi-arid regions. And I am a witness to this. Our farmers are crying, our rivers are shrinking, our young people are anxious for their future. We also know that Kenya can lead. We have abundant renewable energy, as we'll hear from further after I speak, the potential in wind, solar, and geothermal. We have a growing youth population ready to innovate and serve. And we have a constitution that guarantees every Kenyan in the right to a clean and a healthy environment. So by Kenyan government endorsing this treaty would be signaling to the world that Kenya stands for life, for justice, and for future generations. It would be a continuation of our leadership on climate matters, from hosting UNEP headquarters to championing the Africa Climate Summit. The Catholic Church and the institutions in Kenya, including universities, youth networks, and religious congregations, have already taken steps. They have divested from fossil fuels, organized dialogues at Catholic University and other universities, and joined interfaith youth forums to build a moral consensus for climate justice and the treaty itself. Most recently, our bishops, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, Justice and Peace Department, that they endorsed the treaty. The Justice, Peace, and Integrity of Creation Franciscans Africa is committed to supporting this vision through faith-rooted advocacy. We are urging the government of Kenya to publicly follow the suit. As Pope Francis teaches, true wisdom demands an openness to the reality around us. The reality is that fossil fuels are harming our health, our economy, and our children's future. We urge the government publicly to endorse the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty for the sake of the poor, and for the sake of creation, and for the sake of the future generation. Lack of caring for our common home is building a death penalty to each one of us. Let us not be remembered as the generation that saw the signs and remained silent. Let us be remembered as a nation of courage and conscience. And allow me, Ashley, to give my dear father here, our representative also to give the practicality of what we are doing, as he said.
Thank you. Just to complement what Sister is saying, as Sister just mentioned, in 2015, Pope Francis issued a document, Laudato Si. Actually, he never said anything new, because the first time that the Catholic Church was talking about the climate change was in, I think it should be 1930 something. No, it's a very old, actually 18 something. I don't remember very well. There was a Pope Leo the 13th. We have a Pope Leo 14th. He was talking about if we are not careful, we shall destroy our earth. Now, we are doing practical things already. As I was saying that we are involved in trying to solarize all our parishes in Kenya, no? Because we believe in this. You know, when God told us to take care of creation, He knew that we had the intelligence to do that. You know, fossil fuels, they are being depleted, and also their effects are negative to us. But there's a way of having the same energy or better energy without going to fossil fuels. And you're talking about the green energy, and we're already beginning to do that, no? In terms of solarizing our institutions, our homes, and then also trying also to use electric bikes, electric cars. You're trying to talk with many more companies to do that, not just for profit, no, but just to keep this planet clean the way the Lord wants it to be.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Victor, how are you championing this treaty?
Thank you so much. For me, how I champion this treaty is through effective communication. That is because we have massive people out here who don't really know, or rather don't understand the meaning of Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. How do you break down this to the common man out there? For me, it's through social media engagement and through research. That is, I've been able to write some scientific papers out there. So for people who are in academia, you can try get the papers. But for the people out there, you can just get me and get the engagement through social media. And you can also join in the conversation and break down this conversation to a simpler form, or rather simpler language, instead of these jargons of non-proliferation where indigenous communities don't really understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Sister and Father, you shared about the encyclical Laudato Si and how it has been helping or being a moral document, although that was not the initial conversations within the faith groups and also the interfaith. You know, you mentioned also the Nicaea conferences that have been taking place, and this has been an ongoing discussion, and also with Pope Francis's Laudate Deum. And also that came out just ahead of the COP, and he was saying that 8 years ago, I wrote Laudato Si, I'm still writing about these issues, but there's no action. And I'm just curious, what can faith leaders do, or how can faith leaders champion international cooperation more? What else can we do to be able to drive this change that we want to see?
I think the first thing that we need to remind people is that it's about what God feels, what God wants. You know, when God created this world, He created it for everyone. And He never meant there to be distractions or floods or whatever. And for sure, it pains Him very much to see what's happening. And so if we share His feelings, if we take time to feel the way God feels, you know, this is a God who is so good, so gracious, gives us all we need, but then we still hurt Him. So I think we really need to be in solidarity with the way God feels. And you know, when we feel that, we would never want to hurt Him. And we can do whatever it takes, because, you know, imagine someone who is so good to you. He gives you everything. You never want to hurt that person. So you need to be just to God, you know. If humanity spends time and really appreciate how much God does to them, and then say, okay, now I need to protect what is God's. You know? And so we need to feel also that we are part of this creation. Because recently we've had floods, you know? and it is coming to us. It's killing people in Mozambique. Some 2 years ago, I was in one of our missions in Mozambique. It is an area completely destroyed along the coast. And I could see people dead. People who I knew, I could see them dead. We need to feel with the earth. Because the moment you stop feeling, we should go from commerce to a life. Let commerce make sense because it's making life making sense. The moment you don't feel with the earth, you don't feel with God, you don't make commerce an instrument of life, then we can never succeed. So let's feel with God. I think if we do that, we shall be moved to change.
Thank you, sister. Do you have some additions?
Yes, I just want to quote the Laudate Deum, which our Pope issued last year, when he said he warned that climate change is a tragic example of structural sin, and that we are nearing a breaking point. This is not just science, it is a moral emergency. And as for your question, Ashley, is that the church in Glombo, from our Pope, who is our leader, taking and reminding us that not taking care of our climate change, whatever we are seeing is a structural sin, is one of the points that is very strong. And if you know, as a Christian or as a Catholic, you know that if you have a sin, what you are supposed to do. So it's like it's an emergency. It's something that we must take care of. And no wonder Pope Francis decided to write the Laudate Deum to remind us about the encyclical. And this is a sign of us to be reawakened again to care for our common home.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much. And over to you, Victor. I mean, Father has just mentioned about the EVs and how they are encouraging more communities and parishes to adopt that, and also solar panels. And currently with the Kenyan government, for example, with the tax amendment bill, there are proposals that might increase the prices of these commodities. So what message do you have for the Kenyan government, especially when it comes to adoption of renewable energy and also the Fossil Fuel Treaty?
Thank you so much for the question. Somebody mentioned that we are at 90%, that is according to the statistics, 90% renewable, and we are targeting to move to 100% by 2035. That is, I think what stands for us is actually in terms of policy issues, that is reducing taxes when it comes to issues concerning renewables, that is from vehicles, from solar energy, and anything renewables, that is to reduce their taxes and make it really affordable for people to really afford these things, so that we can be able to transit. But in so doing, let's also figure out how the people from the other area, that is people from who are on the other end, that is the that is so that to reduce the discussion. That is, the other day we were having a discussion of phase out and phase down in Dubai, in COP28. And when we think about this, what do we think about the countries which really depend on the fossil fuel as their major source of income? So we need to also have that discussion for us to have a sustainable and a movable country and a globe in general.
Yeah, indeed, it's definitely a question of justice and a question of those who have developed fast to phase out fastest, while also incorporating aspects of reskilling of communities, supporting communities and indigenous and countries who will not be able to develop. So we should not stifle growth as we are championing this future that we want. Thank you so much, Victor, for that. And do you have any call to action for the Kenyan government, especially in terms of the treaty?
My call to action is when the treaty will be out, I think Kenyan government should jump in and sign up for this treaty for us to have a sustainable future.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. And also for championing as a young person and advocating for these very, very important issues. And sister, over to you. Any call to action for faith communities in particular in regards to this treaty?
Yeah, for my, the urgent action is to call upon all of us who are believers to take seriousness on endorsing this treaty, because we have heard that it's a structural sin not to care for our common home and not to care for our people, those that we love. So we must, whom will we be preaching to if they are wiped away by this fossil fuel? So we really need to embrace it, and I would say that through the Interfaith Youth Forum, as Franciscans and the Catholic University, we will continue championing this treaty in various ways.
Thank you so much, sister. And over to you, Father. One final call to action.
Yeah, what I can say is let's make it possible to go green, because it is possible. We work with finance institutions to ensure that everybody is able to afford green energy. I mean, everybody means everyone, no? Let's have grids in our communities, in our villages, whereby people can just have the energy, can have the solar energy, and pay as little as even 100 shillings a month, no? Because that's very possible. And also we have hydroelectric power. We have companies around here, no? And let's not want to make so much profit. No? We can still make money, and also people live well. So let's just love each other, and let's just ensure that everybody has access to green energy. It is possible, because we've seen it is possible. Yeah.
It is possible. Thank you so much, Father. Thank you so much, sister, and thank you so much, Victor. We've heard that, one, destroying the planet is haram. It is a sin, and therefore we must avoid it. We've also discussed the issues of justice, inclusivity also of young people, the fact that also the climate crisis is with us and we are at the front lines, while also considering that even though we are prioritizing development, we should always put people over profit. Now I'd like to open up the conversation to the audience if there's any questions for the speakers, while also taking note of time. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Ponciano Dongo. I'm the head communications at the Kajiado County Assembly. I also double as the chairperson for all the public communications officers in 47 county assemblies. I must appreciate the fact that I'm learning more and getting much more to be a champion on renewable energy. I want to just ask a simple question because of my position as being a public servant and possibly a Kenyan who is interested in championing more on such kind of treaties. My question is, to what extent are we really involving the government bodies apart from the presidency? Because we have parliament, we have the committee in charge of environment, energy, we have the 47 county assemblies. To what extent are we really trying to really advocate the fact that Kenya really has proper legislations? We look at this and see the Energy Act of 2019 is there, is in place. And then we also have national energy policy. And then we have master plans, energy plans in various counties. and you realize we have very good documents, but then in terms of implementation, you find that this is a worrying trend. And therefore, what are we trying to put in place to achieve political expediency and possibly at the grassroots, at our devolved units, what are we trying to really ensure that as much as we are pushing for such a wonderful treaty, what are we trying to really leverage at the devolved units, at those lower levels, to ensure that at the end of it, we get to attain some level of performance and standards. You'll agree with me, as Makueni was the first county to develop an energy plan. Then, despite the fact that Kajiado has done one, Nakuru has done one, but then the devolved units, I think there are not more than 10 that have developed such energy plans that should go a long way in enhancing the use of renewable energy and attaining such. So what are we doing as other organizations that advocate or champion for this wonderful treaty? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A question can be handed over to Prince, just to give some inputs, and then, okay, before Prince, we can have Father as well.
Thank you very much. You know, that's a very key question. Let me just talk as an advocate, as an activist. You know, over the years, I've seen that, you know, we have very good structures and plans in terms of green energy from the level of the national government up to the county government. And I've attended really very nice meetings about this. When I was in Turkana, I remember we had a lot of these and many other places. And so much money is spent on that. And even what we are doing ourselves, the government is able to do, because they have much more money than ourselves. But truth be told, it's the lack of moral responsibility, the lack of political will. And then you've decided to be corrupt. That's just to use or steal the money that we should use the right way. You go for a meeting that you spend millions of money for environment and so on, and you know that, but you simply don't care. Beginning from the national government to the county government, no. And if we do not change our hearts, if we do not change our mindset, this will be the trend. Because Kenya, as one of the best, I've never seen a country that really talks well about green energy in Africa than Kenya, and also invested a lot, so much money is put. I went to a meeting with somebody who came there, and they came there just because they had a position, and they were lucky to be there, and they were given good amount of money to be there. But when they went back, the government officials, they care less about this. And it's a shame. So the government has to convert from the national government, county government. We stop stealing these monies. We stop, being corrupt. Then it will work. Maybe now Prince can clean all this up, no?
Prince, the mess. I would just answer into your concern, what we have been doing, or what have we done to reach into maybe the government agency or people. And we were here in the next room with the first ladies the county of 47 counties. And I thought that was a very important moment of explaining to the first ladies, knowing that I know you'll ask why women, and I can tell you the reason why. Knowing that these women, they support their husbands wherever they are, and they are the ones who receive the poor to give them food, adults, and those kind of things. And we thought that if we ventured into the counties through the first ladies of those counties, explain them the meaning of this treaty, and come up with a resolution together on how we can embrace it each county, then it will go. So we've already begun that, but I know Prince will actually clean this mess, but it's not that we are not doing anything. But also on policy level, I know there are so many documents, as Father has said. Let me also speak as an activist. Do you allow me? Ask yourself why the government of Kajiado did not reach to Isinya or Eporos, where people were dying. It is the church. It's me, a little one, who went there to hear the cry of those who are dying, who are crying because all their cattle were dead. But in the government, we have policies. People cross themselves into the big hotels and make policies. But when do they go to that grassroots level and touch the life of those people who need them? Very rare. I am 20 years in this work of advocacy, but it's very rare until the church or the other faith like SUPKEM will come in to listen to the cry of the poor.
Okay, to me, on 2020, I was involved in a research on ESG issues, that is the environment, social, and governance issue, where I featured SMEs and MSMEs. That is in terms of, do they really know that they're supposed to report in terms of environment, social, and governance issues? And to the surprise of the study is that most of these SMEs and MSMEs didn't know that they have to report matters concerning the environment and social and governance issues on their. Yet the real issues about ESG really happen in their niche. And most of banking or other financing sector, really, if you report on these issues, they are ready to offer you some of grants and some of the opportunities for you to be able to catapult your initiative. That is in terms of, for example, for environment, that is renewable energy, waste management. For social is in terms of capacity building and any more other issues. Then on governance, that is in terms of gender issues and more. So I think when we speak about such things, because on the recommendation part, I was able to suggest that is we need to push this conversation on ESG for the SMEs and MSMEs to adopt, so that at least we can be able to catapult the conversation of such as the fossil fuel non-proliferation. Thank you, and I thank you to Papa.
Thanks, Ashley. Thank you so much, Ponciano, for a great question. And I would just like to confirm that here in Kenya, our discussions with the several concerned ministries has taken place on several platforms, both nationally and outside the continent. To kickstart this, we've had numerous calls and discussions with the Kenya's climate envoy. There is the advisor of the presidency on matters climate change on several occasions, and he is very much aware of the treaty and very much aware of the urgency that we are having. In the Ministry Climate Change Department of Climate Change, Ministry of Environment, Department of Climate Change at the national level, we've had also those several discussions, both nationally and international climate summits, including next week, I think, when people are meeting in Bonn. We also invited the Kenya's envoy to participate in a treaty side event in which we are going to discuss the next steps from now onwards, or from next year onwards, and how we can revamp this across the continent. And in terms of, so given that the treaty is a high-level political tool, normally what will happen is that we should be discussing with the president, we should be discussing with the advisor, and we should not even be going down to the ground. However, at the treaty we have a theory of change that entails the citizen participation and information. So once in a while when we get to engage with the citizen, and of course Odongo Ponchiano comes from Kajiado County, one of the counties that we had approached, and we met there and discussed things, how we can move forward. Those things are still not moving forward. We also go to other counties to see how we can just support what is happening at the national level. However, given that a policy tool at the national level should also be a government priority now to inform its populace on what they are signing up for. However, we do encourage, as well as our partners, the JPIC, the Laudato Si, those who are also dealing with the themes and goals associated with the Fossil Fuels Non-Proliferation Treaty, to continue that good work on behalf of the government, on behalf of the treaty itself. Outside Kenya, we've had various talks with Ghana. Actually, Ghana is moving faster than Kenya, even though the talk with the Ghana started a few months after Kenya had started. And why is this? Because sometimes, you know, our people in Kenya, or I don't want to say Africa, sometimes things stall in between. And you might wonder why things are stalling. A classical example, I've had engagement with several counties, and some stalling comes in because of things I don't know. We also have Malawi, which we've engaged all the various concerned ministries as well. And Rwanda, for example, Rwanda, when things were almost over, then we got some communication, hey, you guys, you are not supposed to do this here. Then it came at a point when there were this conflict with DRCs, things like that. But there has been, because this has reminded me of your question, why is the delay? Sometimes the delays we cause by our bureaucracies, and sometimes we cause them by expectations that are perceived and not put down. And so then this creates that, oh, what's happening here? For Kenya, we thought we would be over this by September. Is it September last year? But of course, maybe there are perceived expectations that we've never met. But we have been open on the table that this is what is going to come from our side, and this is what will come from your side. And we continue to push despite those delays. And because we want that 100 years from now, anyway, I will not be alive by that time, but maybe 30 or 40 years from now, I'll say that I approached the Kenyan government and they refused, but now we have a treaty, because what we know is that the treaty is going to be live sometime soon, and we must be part of it. So Odongo will continue finding creative ways of engaging the county. Your county was also earmarked because of the people, the indigenous persons there. Within the treaty itself, we have 13 indigenous nations which have signed up to the treaty. But if you look at Africa, we have various indigenous people as well, but Maasai stands out. That's why we also started with them in your county to see how this progresses. So we'll look at various avenues in which we see how creatively we re-engage Kajiado and other counties to see how this moves. For your information, the Council of Governors was invited here. I don't know if one person represented them or not, but those are the bottlenecks that you open the doors, then some close on themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prince. And I think that brings us to the close of this session. Thank you so much to our panelists. Can we please give a round of applause to our panelists, please? Yes, we will have a session, an informal session after this, where you can approach the speakers and also ask them the questions that you have. So thank you so much. Please do hold on to that question and address it after this. So thank you so much also, dear Father, Sister, and Victor, for the great inputs, and also to all the listeners, participants, partners present here, for all the great work that you do in terms of championing this treaty and in terms of all the collaborations and stakeholder engagements towards making this treaty live. I like what Prince says, that the momentum is building, and we must continue to sustain that through our strategic partnerships and our actions, and also through dialogue. So before we close, I would like to invite all the people present here, as well as the speakers, to have a group photo. We'll be guided by our photo people here. And then also, we welcome all the journalists present to continue engaging with the speakers. There will be some refreshments just outside of the door, as well as lunch will be served, so please don't be in a rush. And then lastly, a reminder that if you have not yet registered at the entrance, please be sure to do so. So thank you once again. Let us continue walking towards this journey of justice, sustainability, as well as peace. Thank you.